Some of the most important doors in life aren't opened by keys, but by kindness. When one man gives without expecting anything in return, what ripple might that send through a world built on keeping your head down? Let us know in the comments section below, because what happens next might just change everything. Travis Parker didn't talk much on job sites, and that suited everyone fine. He showed up on time, kept his hard hat low, and poured himself into concrete forms like they were his religion. He wasn't the youngest guy out there, but you wouldn't know it from the way he carried rebar like toothpicks and outpaced men half his age. Folks who worked beside him often wondered what his story was, but no one ever asked. Some men walk around with silence like a badge, and Travis wore his like it had been earned in fun. On this particular Tuesday, the job site in Willow Creek was humming by 7 o'clock, hay in rotating cranes, compressors coughing up steam, and boots crunching across loose gravel like background percussion. They were laying foundational walls for a new civic center, and it was the kind of job that kept hands busy and heads down. Travis had just finished driving wedge anchors through the last footing panel when the lunch horn sounded, a single grating blast that shattered the rhythm of hammer and saw. He wiped the grit from his palms, unlatched his battered red lunchbox, and found his usual seat, a sloped concrete edge in the shade of the portable trailer. The other guys clumped together by the chain-link gate, laughing over their smokes and sandwiches, but Travis kept his back to them. He wasn't unfriendly, just elsewhere, always had been. He peeled back the wax paper from his sandwich, roast beef, mustard, heavy on the pickles. The first bite was halfway to his mouth when he heard it. A cough, dry, persistent, close. He glanced left. A girl, maybe 6 or 7, stood just beyond the fence. She wasn't supposed to be there. Her sweatshirt was 2 sizes too big, and one of her sneakers had no laces. But what hit Travis first wasn't how she looked. It was how she stared at his sandwich like it was something sacred. The second thing he noticed? She was trembling. He lowered the sandwich, blinked once, then again. "Hey there," he said, his voice hoarse from dust and disuse. She didn't answer. "You lost?" he tried. The girl hesitated before she shook her head. "No," she said, soft. "Just hungry." Travis didn't ask questions. He didn't stand. He didn't speak another word. He just tore his sandwich in half, neatly, evenly, and walked it to the fence. She reached through the slats, hands tiny and bird-like, and accepted the food without a thank you. But when their eyes met, hers were this odd mix of storm and sorrow, he nodded, and she nodded back. It was the kind of moment most people would forget by dinner. But not Travis. By the time he returned to his seat, half sandwich in hand, his foreman, Pete Delaney, was already bearing down on him, face twisted like a dried apricot. "What the hell are you doing, Parker?" Pete barked, glancing over toward the fence. "You inviting every stray in town now?" "She looked hungry," Travis said, not looking up. Pete shook his head, laughing without humor. "You can't just feed kids off job site property. You think this is a soup kitchen? You want to get sued?" "I think she needed a meal," Travis said quietly, then took a bite of what remained. Pete didn't like that. His jaw worked side to side, his lips flattening to a hard, straight line. But he didn't push further. Guys like Travis, they carried something just under the skin. You didn't poke too hard unless you wanted it to surface. Back at the fence, the girl had vanished. By shift's end, the red Mustang hadn't yet appeared. But that night, just as the floodlights were dimming and the last mixer truck coughed its final load of slurry into the forms, someone spotted headlights on the access road. A sleek, low-bodied car rolled up to the gate, painted the kind of red you don't forget. The engine purred like a warning. No one got out. It just sat there, blocking the only exit. One guy joked it was a pissed-off ex. Another muttered something about repo men. Travis didn't say anything. He just stood there, his eyes narrowing slightly, hands at his sides. He knew that car didn't belong to any crew member. He also knew that kind of quiet tension. When something's coming, and nobody knows yet whether it's trouble or truth. A moment passed, then two. Inside the Mustang, the driver moved. A woman, mid-50s, silver hair pulled into a tight bun, military posture even behind the wheel. Her eyes flicked to Travis through the windshield. Then she nodded once, slow and deliberate, and drove off. Not a word, not a threat, just a statement. But something about that nod unsettled Travis. He didn't know it yet, but that wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning. The next morning, Travis was the first one at the site. It wasn't unusual. He always arrived early, before the first rays of sun stretched over the crane arms, before Pete pulled in with his thermos and lecture of the day. He liked the quiet, the steady clank of unlocking the tool lockers, the comfort of being useful before the noise started. He didn't dwell on what happened the night before. He didn't have to, because when he turned onto the gravel drive leading to the temporary job site gate, the red Mustang was already there, parked, off, no driver in sight. He pulled his truck beside it. The Mustang's windows were tinted dark but not pitch black, enough that you could make out the silhouette of someone sitting in the driver's seat, unmoving, waiting. Travis stayed in his truck for a few seconds longer than usual, not from fear. He couldn't recall the last time he'd truly been afraid, but from caution, the kind that gets baked into a man after years in uniform. Then he stepped out, steel-toe boots hitting the gravel like a challenge. He walked to the Mustang's driver's side, slow but direct, and tapped twice on the window with the back of a knuckle. The door opened. She stepped out. Same woman as last night. Closer now, Travis could see more. Creases at the edge of her eyes, the faint outline of a scar trailing along her temple, one that disappeared into her hairline. Her stance was formal, squared shoulders, arms at ease, but alert. She was military, no question. You didn't unlearn that posture. "I'm not here to start trouble," she said. Voice calm, even, measured like a rifle sight. "I didn't think you were," Travis replied. "You fed my granddaughter." Travis studied her face, searching for something beneath the practiced stillness. She looked hungry. "She was," the woman said. "And you didn't ask questions? You didn't press her or call someone? You just gave her half a sandwich?" He nodded. "That's all I had." A long pause. "I'm Colonel Diane Holloway, retired. I'm Lila's guardian. Her mother, my daughter, passed away 6 months ago. Liver cancer. Took her quick." Travis's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes shifted, like an old radio catching signal. "Layla stopped talking for a while," Holloway continued. "Then she started disappearing after school, slipping out. I tracked her last few outings. This one brought her here." Travis folded his arms across his chest. "You think I'm a risk?" She smiled faintly. "If I thought that, you wouldn't still be standing." "Fair enough." "She told me about you," Holloway said. "Not much, just that you didn't yell, that you shared, that you didn't make her feel small." Travis looked down for a moment, then back at her. "Most kids don't need fixing. They just need to not be forgotten." Silence sat between them like a third person. Colonel Holloway opened the door again, reached in, and pulled out a clipboard. "I run a transitional center for veterans on the edge of town, Holloway House. We teach trades, provide housing, run job placement. Most of our guys are in recovery. Some are rebuilding from nothing. We need instructors, hands-on folks who can teach with patience, not pity." Travis didn't take the clipboard. "I'm no teacher," he said. "Neither was I at first," she replied. "But I've watched you. Not just yesterday. You've worked this site 2 months. Never seen a man command that much respect without saying a word. I figured you either served or you lost someone who did." Travis's jaw tensed slightly. He didn't answer. She held the clipboard out again. "We pay. It's not glamorous, but it matters." Still, he didn't move. "I'm not good at that kind of thing," he finally said. "Too much noise. Too many people needing what I don't have left." Colonel Holloway studied him. "Maybe." Or maybe you've got exactly what they need." He didn't respond, just walked past her and into the site, unlocking the first chain, the gate screeching open on rusted hinges. She didn't follow, but she left the clipboard on the hood of his truck. That day, the sandwich incident was the talk of the crew. Pete was irritated, though he didn't press further, just muttered about lawsuits and insurance and code violations. Travis said nothing, but every so often his eyes drifted back to where the red Mustang had been parked. Empty now, just a patch of gravel, still warm in the morning sun. By noon, Lila hadn't returned, but something else did. On the crew break table, beside the scattered Gatorade bottles and empty chip bags, someone had left a paper lunch sack. Travis didn't notice it until he went to grab his thermos. The sack had no label, no note. Inside, a ham sandwich wrapped in wax paper, one side cut slightly smaller than the other. He sat down with it, took a bite, didn't say a word. The rest of the day moved in fits and starts. Concrete delays. A shipment of lumber got misrouted. Pete yelled. Travis hammered. Dust settled. But long after the others packed up and peeled out, Travis remained behind. The clipboard was still on his truck right where Holloway left it. He hadn't touched it. Not until the last ray of sun dipped below the grain silos. Then, without a word, he picked it up, read the top line. It wasn't a contract. It wasn't even a full application, just a page with a heading, Veteran Instructor, Volunteer Inquiry, Holloway House. Below it, 10 blank lines. Name, skills, availability. Travis didn't write anything, but he folded the paper once, neat, and slid it into his back pocket. That night, he didn't sleep. He sat on the edge of his bed, boots still on, staring at a faded photo pinned above his dresser. 2 men in uniform, desert fatigues, arms slung over each other's shoulders. One of them was Travis, and the other, long gone. His fingers touched the photo's corner, then the paper in his pocket. And finally, without ceremony, he picked up the phone. He didn't dial a number, just stared at the screen, whispered, "Might be time." The first thing Travis noticed was the smell. Not of mold or bleach, like he half expected from a place described as a transitional housing center. No, this place smelled like pine and soap, clean in a way that said someone cared, not just scrubbed the floors. The lobby was small but warm, with a leather couch worn soft in the middle, and a bulletin board peppered with handwritten job postings, quotes, and half-torn flyers about support groups and AA meetings. Colonel Diane Holloway met him at the front desk. No clipboard this time, no red Mustang either. Just her, in a black button-down and slacks, sleeves rolled, like she just stepped out of a workshop. "You came," she said, not smiling, but her voice held something close to relief. "I did," Travis replied, eyes scanning the space. "Dunno why yet." "You don't have to," she said. "Sometimes you just follow the echo." She led him down a narrow hallway, past rooms labeled with metal plaques, carpentry, welding, culinary, and one that simply read Quiet Room, with a peace symbol etched beside the text. They passed a few men in their 20s and 30s, some in flannel, others in plain white tees. A few nodded as they passed. One older guy, maybe mid-50s, with a prosthetic leg and tribal tattoos peeking out from under his collar, lifted a coffee mug in silent greeting. "They're all veterans?" Travis asked. "Every one of them," Holloway said. "All eras, all kinds of battles, some still fighting." She stopped in front of a door labeled Workshop A. "I want you to meet someone," she said, then pushed the door open. Inside, the room was buzzing with a low hum of energy. 2 long workbenches dominated the space, both cluttered with tools, measuring tape, bits of pine shavings, and partially assembled projects. At one station, a young man was carving the edge of a birdhouse with slow, careful precision. At another, a tall, wiry guy was measuring a 2x4, eyebrows furrowed in frustration. "Matt," Holloway called, "come here a second." The wiry one looked up, wiped his hands on his pants, and approached. His gait was a bit off. Old injury, Travis guessed. Maybe shrapnel or a bad jump. But his eyes were sharp, and he held himself like someone who hadn't let the pain win. "This is Travis Parker," she said. "The man I told you about." Matt extended a hand. "Heard about you." Travis shook it. "Not sure that's good or bad." "It's respect," Matt replied. "You shared your lunch. That kind of thing travels." Holloway raised an eyebrow, impressed. "You remember Lila? She talks about him like he's some kind of sandwich wizard," Matt chuckled. Travis exhaled through his nose, his version of a laugh. "Matt's one of our success stories," Holloway said. "Army Corps of Engineers, medically discharged 2 years ago, one leg shorter than the other now. Spent 7 months homeless before he walked through our doors." "Didn't walk, really," Matt said. "More like limped, with attitude." Holloway ignored that. "He leads our beginner sessions in woodworking now. Teaches patience, even when he doesn't have it himself." Travis nodded toward the benches. "What am I supposed to do here?" "Start simple," Holloway said. "Just watch, then offer help, then take over when it feels right." "I don't lead," he muttered. "Neither do I," she said. "I just don't walk away anymore." That stuck with him. Over the next hour, Travis stood at the edge of the room, arms folded, observing everything. Matt coached a new guy through cutting a groove into a joint. He walked him through the steps like a dance: clamp, mark, saw, shave. The younger man's hands trembled slightly, but he followed, nodding. At the adjacent table, a broad-shouldered vet with neck tattoos was building what looked like a small shelf unit. He cursed under his breath every time he drove a screw in crooked. Travis finally stepped forward. "Mind if I show you something?" The guy looked up. "Sure, just don't take my pride with it." Travis took the drill. "Screws, pull toward the soft grain. You gotta brace the opposite edge, like this." He angled the screw slightly, tapped the guide hole deeper, then handed it back. The next screw went in smooth, no splitting. "Damn," the guy muttered. "You some kind of whisperer?" "Nope," Travis said. "Just got it wrong enough times." That's how it started. No speeches, no job titles, just fixing one angle, then another. The men started asking him things: how to plane a surface flush, what grit to start with when sanding cedar, how to read a warped board. It was natural, like breathing, like war stories that didn't need to be told with words. By the time Holloway checked on them again, Travis was explaining dovetail joints to a group of 3 like he'd been born in a lumber yard. She didn't interrupt, just watched for a while, then disappeared back down the hallway. That evening, as Travis stepped out into the late sun, he saw someone waiting near the gate. Isla. Same sweatshirt, cleaner now, hair brushed, holding something. As he approached, she looked up at him, eyes steady. "You dropped this," she said, holding out a folded piece of paper. He took it, opened it. It wasn't his. It was a drawing. Crayon on notebook paper, a stick figure man with a red lunchbox sitting beside a small girl, a sandwich in between them. Travis knelt to her level. "I like it," he said. "I wanted you to have it," she replied. "You didn't have to share, but you did. Mom used to say good people don't always look like heroes." Travis's throat tightened in a way that surprised him. "He was right," he said, "about that." Colonel Holloway appeared behind her, watching the exchange without stepping in. Travis rose. "You sure you want me back tomorrow?" he asked her. "Depends," she said, folding her arms. "You gonna keep fixing everyone's work?" "Only if they let me." She smiled. "Then we'll see you at 8. Travis nodded, then looked once more at Lila. "Thanks for the drawing." "You're welcome," she said, and this time she smiled. A real one, not worn or cautious, but full and bright and a little crooked. The kind that could level a man if he wasn't ready. He turned toward his truck, slid the paper gently into the glove box beside his work gloves, and shut the door with care. As the Mustang headlights flicked on in the distance behind him, Travis didn't need to look back. He knew Sometimes you don't find purpose. Sometimes it finds you. Thursday morning started like the others, Miss clinging to the job site chain-link fence, the faint whine of saws kicking to life, boots crunching over gravel. But Travis Parker knew something was off the moment he turned the last bend in the service road. There it was again, the red Mustang. This time, though, it wasn't parked politely off to the side. It sat square across the job site entrance, hood angled like a shield, blocking the gate completely. The engine was off, the driver's door hung open, and beside it Colonel Diane Holloway stood with her arms crossed, legs squared, like she was standing in a war zone, not a construction zone. Pete Delaney was already pacing beside her, hard hat tucked under his arm, face burning red with frustration. "For the last damn time, ma'am," Pete barked, "you can't just park your little protest vehicle in front of a live job site." "It's not a protest," she replied calmly. "Then what the hell is it?" She turned when she saw Travis's truck approach. Her eyes found his through the windshield. Steady, waiting. Travis parked, slid out, and walked over. "You know," he said, "when you asked me to help out at Holloway House, I didn't think it came with blocking heavy equipment." Diane didn't answer at first. She held out a folder. "Take this," she said. "You'll want to see it." He opened it slowly. Inside were photographs, Xeroxed court transcripts, a city development map. He didn't understand at first until he saw the outline on page 3, the blueprints of the civic center they were building, overlaid on top of something else. A parcel of land labeled Veterans Transitional Community Zone, proposed expansion, 2021. Travis looked up. "You're kidding." "They rerouted the zoning plan 2 years ago," Diane said. "Originally, this lot was designated for Holloway House's expansion, 10 units of veteran housing, a rehab clinic, a new wood shop. But someone pulled strings fast, and the city rezoned it for public-private development." Pete rolled his eyes. "Here we go with the conspiracy nonsense again." "It's not a conspiracy," she snapped. "It's paperwork, signed by your project's lead contractor and a councilman who just so happened to benefit from the bidding contract." Pete's mouth opened, but Travis raised a hand. He wasn't interested in a shouting match. "What do you want me to do?" he asked Diane, voice low. "Nothing illegal," she said, "but people listen to you here, and you're the only one who's seen both sides. I've tried to fight it through the right channels, meetings, letters. No one listens. And this," he nodded toward the car. "Public attention," she said. "It's the only thing left. I'll move it before the truck arrives, but I need to make a point first." Travis looked back at the other workers who were gathered now in small clumps. A few of them craned their necks toward the Mustang, murmuring. One of the electricians pulled out his phone and started recording. "You're serious about this place," he said. "I've had men OD in the parking lot because the county wait lists were too long. I've watched women vets couch surf with their kids because there's nowhere safe for them. And I've seen what happens when someone like Lila finally feels safe again, for the first time in months, because a stranger offered her half a sandwich." Travis didn't reply. He stood still, eyes on the Mustang, the crew, the gate, the folder in his hands. Then he handed the folder back to her. "Keep it," she said. "You might need it." An engine growled in the distance. "Concrete hauler, big one." Pete panicked. "She needs to move that car now." "She will," Travis said. "But first, I've got something to say." He turned, stepped onto a nearby pile of gravel bags, and raised his voice, not shouting, just loud enough to cut through the murmurs. "Some of you know me," he said. "Some of you just call me that quiet guy. Doesn't matter either way, but I want you to know what we're building here." The workers quieted. "This site wasn't always meant for a civic center," he said, holding up the papers. "It was supposed to be a second chance for people who wore a uniform like some of us once did, a place for veterans to come back to the world at their own pace. You know what took its place? He pointed to the temporary banners flapping in the wind along the site fence. Willow Creek Civic Center, coming 2025. That, he said, a building with ribbon cuttings and speeches and names carved in polished stone. Pete stepped forward. You're out of line, Parker. Travis looked down at him. No, Pete. Finally standing in it. A pause, long enough to stretch, long enough for everyone to realize he wasn't joking. Then Matt appeared from the crowd. Travis didn't even know he was there. He stepped up beside him, nodding once. I heard. A second guy, neck tattoos from the wood shop, followed. I did, too. Then 3 more, then 5. By the time the concrete truck came rumbling up the road, over a dozen men and women stood beside Travis. Veterans, crew, bystanders, even a few city workers who'd quietly stopped to watch. Diane finally walked over and opened the Mustang's door, but she didn't start the engine. She reached inside, grabbed a sign, and propped it against the hood. He served, "Let us come home." The truck honked twice, confused, slowing as it approached the crowd. Pete looked like his face might explode. You're going to shut this whole thing down? No, Travis said, stepping off the gravel pile. We're going to open it up, let the town know what really happened. That afternoon, local news vans showed up. Holloway gave a calm, clear interview in front of the red Mustang. Travis didn't speak to the cameras. He didn't need to. He just stood behind her, arms crossed, head high. The next week, the mayor's office announced a review of the zoning change. Within a month, the Civic Center project was paused. The land, pending approval, would be split. Half for the public building, half restored to its original purpose, housing for veterans. The following spring, Travis ran the first training session in the new woodshop. Lila visited twice a week, often sitting cross-legged in the corner, coloring. Sometimes she'd wave to the new guys. Sometimes she'd leave a drawing on the workbench when no one was looking. Travis kept them all. One day, a new instructor walked in and asked him what his actual title was. Travis looked at the wall. Photos of the team, of Lila's crayon portraits, of smiling vets with their finished tables and shelves, and said, "Doesn't matter what they call me, I just show up." He turned back to the workbench, lunchbox in hand, another sandwich, ready to share.